Hey, how's it going, everyone? Hope you are having a great start to your work week. Wanted to jump on here, make a quick video, nothing fancy. Just wanted to discuss a few things. Number one is WearEver is still in the headlines. And I'm still screaming, test Mary Lou Patton Park. And in fact, I am actively working on making that happen. Working with members of City Council, as well as a world-renowned biochemist who has been integral in finding radioactivity in Pike County. He's willing to do a consultation and help City Council understand the seriousness of the WearEver plume. Now, speaking of the WearEver toxic plume, I posted something yesterday. If you go and look at the most recent groundwater monitoring data, which was done in May 2025, was released earlier this month, you'll notice something that's troubling. Now, the main cancer-causing chemical in this plume is trichloroethylene, also known as TCE. And for the last 30 years, the limited action plan agreed to by the EPA with Alcoa / Howmet was not to remediate the site, but to contain it, monitor it, and hope and pray that nature does its thing and these chlorinated solvents, these dangerous chemicals, will slowly degrade on their own and go through a process to where eventually they become a benign chemical known as ethene. But to get to ethene, you have to go through multiple stages. You first go to this process where a chemical compound called DCE is made, and then on into vinyl chloride before eventually becoming a more stable compound known as ethene. Well, the problem at WearEver is we are seeing over 30 years TCE numbers decrease. But what we're seeing is DCE and vinyl chloride numbers increase. But we don't see those numbers decrease, specifically the vinyl chloride, which is much, much more dangerous, more mobile than the TCE and DCE. And if you're not familiar with vinyl chloride, all you gotta do is Google East Palestine. That's what was in those tanker cars that they end up venting and setting on fire and letting go into the atmosphere. That toxic stuff, that's vinyl chloride. And that is what this plume is transforming into. It's transforming from a primary trichloroethylene TCE plume to a more dangerous vinyl chloride plume, because the natural degradation process is being stalled. And why is that? Well, there's a lot of different reasons. Certain microbes in the soil, in the silt, in the sand, under WearEver, where this plume has been collecting for decades, for generations. That can stall out this process, this natural decline from trichloroethylene down to the stable ethene. But it's stalling out, which creates a more serious problem that's not being taken into consideration, because the limited action plan never considered this. It never considered that the plume would stall out, the process would stall out, and we would see the TCE turn into a more dangerous vinyl chloride plume, which could spread further, more easily than currently with TCE, which puts places like Mary Lou Patton Park right in the crosshairs. Thus, I scream, test Mary Lou Patton Park. Because though the EPA says this plume, this current plume, has magically bypassed Mary Lou Patton Park, it's gone under the water treatment plants, under Union Springs, under the highway, all the way to the Scioto River. That's what they say. But they don't take into consideration the possibility that the vinyl chloride has spread further than what they believe is the boundary of the plume. And they don't know that because there's no monitoring wells in Mary Lou Patton Park. The park has never been tested. Ever in its entire existence. Has never been tested for cancer-causing chemicals or heavy metals. Now let's put it this way. The toxic pit where they was dumping all these dangerous chemicals is 350 meters north. I mean, it's the pit is 350 meters south of the nearest ball diamond. The ball diamond is north of WearEver, 350 meters. That's very close. Why not test it? So I have a biochemist that's willing to consult with Chillicothe City Council on WearEver, on the seriousness of the plume, because the EPA is dragging their feet. They agreed to a limited action plan that basically handcuffed them from going and doing any deeper enforcement. But yet, if you find these chemicals in Mary Lou Patton Park, you could force Howmet to clean it up, to clean up the park. So that's what I am actively working on, is getting testing done to prove definitively that Mary Lou Patton Park is safe. This week, an interview I did with the Scioto Post and iHeartMedia should be coming out. I don't know when the day is, but there's an interview that's coming out where I take a local journalist down to Mary Lou Patton Park to discuss this very, very issue. So that's what we're looking at. That's where we're at in things. This TCE plume is transforming into a vinyl chloride plume, which makes it more dangerous, and the EPA is dropping the ball, and Howmet is getting by with doing the bare minimum. I also posted recently how for about $5 to $10 million over a 5-year span, Howmet can clean up WearEver permanently. Instead of waiting, listen to me, the current limited action plan says that WearEver, the site will become safe. It will be at regulatory limits in 100 years. It'll take 100 years for WearEver to be remotely safe under the current plan agreed to by the Ohio EPA and Howmet. It's crazy, isn't it? 100 years. When they could spend the extra millions of dollars, because they are a billion-dollar company, they can spend the millions of dollars and clean it up the right way. Instead of leaving a community with a toxic legacy that they did not ask for. So that's where we are. That's where I'm at. So I'm actively working to get this ball rolling, get testing, and work with Chillicothe City Council to deal with this issue. An issue that should have been dealt with 30 years ago under a former mayor and under a former city council who dropped the ball. One last thing on WearEver before I jump off here. This limited action plan that was agreed to in 1997 is antiquated. We've had advancements in technology, advancements in our understanding of chemicals, how they move in the environment, how they affect the biosphere. We have a better understanding now. It's time that the Ohio EPA reevaluates this entire plan from start to finish and base it upon current data, current knowledge, and understanding of how these chemicals, these dangerous chemicals, move and how they affect the environment. How are they absorbed into plant matter? Because this plume shifts the way the EPA says it will, it's also going to go right into a cornfield. What's the risk of corn absorbing these dangerous chemicals. Now you have to worry about it in the food chain. See, WearEver is a Pandora's box that should have been dealt with. But this is what happens when the agencies that are supposed to be looking out for us don't do their job. This is what happens when local officials who are supposed to be looking out for the communities they serve don't do their job. And you're left with corporate negligence. It's shameful, but this is the reality. So stay tuned. Got a lot of work to do. Have a great Monday.